Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Just now, Zhang Shouyong was shocked when he witnessed Duan Lingtian performing an unfathomable method. Now, Duan Lingtian seemed to know a fourth-grade weapon refiner in his words, which surprised him even more. He suddenly felt, the little guy who needed his care in the past has grown up. Perhaps it won't be long before he surpasses me. No, maybe he has already surpassed me now. Zhang Shouyong sighed secretly. On age, compared to Duan Lingtian, he is nearly 10 years older. But in terms of talent and means, he felt inferior to others. Let's not talk about anything else. Just take the method Duan Lingtian used to deal with his second brother, Zhang Shouyuan. From beginning to end, he didn't see clearly what was going on. If he hadn't seen Duan Lingtian's calmness at that time, he wouldn't have realized that it was a trick Duan Lingtian used. Otherwise, he would have thought, like the crowd of onlookers at the time, that Zhang Shouyuan himself had gone insane. A fourth-grade weapon refiner? Hearing Zhang Shouyong's words, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but laugh secretly. He is no longer a fourth-grade weapon refiner now. Now, his cultivation has broken through to the void realm, and he can already condense third-grade weapon fire. As long as he has enough materials, he can completely refine a third-grade spiritual weapon. However, he didn't point it out for the time being. I guess so. Is that so? Zhang Shouyong didn't quite understand what Duan Lingtian meant. However, he saw the strong confidence in Duan Lingtian's eyes at this moment, as if he was confident that he could return him a brand new fourth-grade spiritual weapon level wine gourd. For a moment, his breathing became rapid. Brother Lingtian, what materials do you need? I'll go find them right away. Zhang Shouyong was a little impatient. He had always dreamed of upgrading the wine gourd he carried with him to a fourth-grade spiritual weapon. Now that he saw the hope, he naturally would not miss it. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly, raised his hand, and took out a pen and paper from his storage ring. Duan Lingtian scribbled densely packed words on a piece of white paper with a flourish of his brush. If there were a high-level weapon refiner here, he would definitely be shocked when he saw the materials written by Duan Lingtian. It was simply because the pile of materials Duan Lingtian was writing down were all the materials needed for a third-grade spiritual weapon. Some of these materials are the main materials needed to refine third-grade spiritual weapons. However, Zhang Shouyong was unaware of all this. As the saying goes, every profession has its own specialization. Although he has a high talent for martial arts, he knows nothing about refining weapons. That's all. Soon, Duan Lingtian put down his writing brush. The pile of materials he wrote down included some materials needed to help Zhang Shouyong upgrade the grade of his spiritual weapon gourd, as well as some materials needed to upgrade the fourth-grade spiritual weapon medicine cauldron in his hand. He believed that with the Zhang family's ability, they would be able to collect all the materials quickly. I'll collect it right away. Zhang Shouyong took the paper from Duan Lingtian and stood up hurriedly, somewhat impatiently. However, before leaving, he seemed to remember something and looked at Duan Lingtian and said, Brother Lingtian, how about you stay at our Zhang family mansion for a while? After I gather these materials, you can take my spiritual gourd and leave to find the weapon refining master. Can? Duan Lingtian nodded and agreed. In his opinion, there was not much difference between living in the Zhang family mansion and returning to the Blackstone Empire to live in the mansion in the capital. Moreover, Suli was the only acquaintance he had there. Suli has been elusive recently, and there has been little interaction between him and him. In the Zhang family mansion, it was quite pleasant to have Zhang Shouyong drink and chat with him. Cheong-er, go back to the compound and prepare a guest room for Brother Lingtian. I'll go collect these refining materials. Soon, Zhang Shouyong said something to Wang Qiong and left in a hurry. Since it concerns the spiritual weapon grade of his wine gourd, he dare not neglect it. Brother Lingtian, I'm sorry to have embarrassed you. Wang Qiong said a little embarrassedly as she watched her husband leave in a hurry. That's okay. I understand how Brother Zhang feels. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Then, Duan Lingtian, led by Wang Qiong, returned to the compound where she and Zhang Shouyong lived. The compound is spacious and has many unused rooms. Wang Qiong called 2 maids and together they cleaned up a room for Duan Lingtian, and only then did they let Duan Lingtian stay. See if you need anything, just ask. After Duan Lingtian settled in, Wang Qiong said with a smile. Good. Duan Lingtian responded. Excuse me, sister-in-law. No trouble. Wang Qiong shook his head and left the room immediately. Brother Lingtian, you should have a good rest. I'm leaving first. After Wang Qiong left, she closed the door. Duan Lingtian sat cross-legged on the bed, holding the fragment of Wind's state of mind in his hand. He took out a mid-grade yuan stone and began to practice. 9 dragons fighting sovereign art, Earth Dragon transformation. Duan Lingtian was completely immersed in cultivation and forgot about time. After 1 mid-grade yuan stone was used up, Duan Lingtian took out another mid-grade yuan stone and continued practicing. With the help of the fragment of Wind Realm, his cultivation and Wind Realm were improving at an extremely fast rate. During this time, Duan Lingtian occasionally felt hungry and left the room to eat. Wang Qiong would always have someone prepare delicious food specially for him. After practicing to Duan Lingtian's current level, he can already practice fasting to a certain extent and can go a long time without eating without any impact on his body. During his cultivation, Duan Lingtian lost track of time. After an unknown amount of time, Duan Lingtian woke up from his training. Another mid-grade yuan stone is gone. Looking at the stone in his hand, which had lost its vitality and looked dull and lifeless, Duan Lingtian shook his head and was ready to throw the stone aside. Immediately afterwards, another medium-grade yuan stone appeared in his hand. Just when Duan Lingtian was about to continue practicing. Brother Lingtian. Duan Lingtian heard a sound coming from outside the door. Duan Lingtian was familiar with this voice. It was Zhang Shouyong's voice. Brother Zhang is back? Duan Lingtian got up from the bed and opened the door. Outside the door, Zhang Shouyong was standing there. Brother Zhang. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly at Zhang Shouyong. Brother Lingtian, I found all the materials you requested. Here they are. Zhang Shouyong raised his hand and handed Duan Lingtian a receiving ring that had been released from its owner recognition. So soon. Duan Lingtian was a little surprised. It's been a month, is that fast? Zhang Shouyong disagreed after hearing Duan Lingtian's words. You know, in the past month, in addition to using the Zhang family's connections to find that pile of materials, he also went around looking for these materials himself. This also resulted in him not coming back many times in the past month. However, Duan Lingtian was unaware of all this. A month. Duan Lingtian suddenly realized that so many days had passed. He had been immersed in cultivation and thought that only 10 days had passed since he came to find Zhang Shouyong. After taking the storage ring from Zhang Shouyong, Duan Lingtian looked at the wine gourd on Zhang Shouyong's waist. Brother Zhang, give me your spiritual gourd. Good. Zhang Shouyong nodded quickly, took off the wine gourd, and handed it to Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian. At this moment, Zhang Shouyong hesitated for a moment before saying, while I was searching for those materials, I heard from a 5th-grade refiner that some of them were very high-grade and couldn't even be used to refine a 4th-grade spiritual weapon. What? Brother Zhang, are you worried that I'll steal your materials? Duan Lingtian smiled. Of course not. Zhang Shouyong hurriedly shook his head. That's not what I meant. I'm just curious. After all, that person is only a 5th-grade weapon refiner. In terms of knowledge, he is naturally not as good as the 4th-grade weapon refiner that Brother Lingtian knows. As he spoke, Zhang Shouyong's tone became more complimentary. After all, his spiritual weapon gourd still needs the help of the 4th-grade weapon refining master to upgrade its grade. Haha, Brother Zhang, Actually, what that 5th-grade weapon refiner said is correct. Duan Lingtian laughed heartily. Zhang Shouyong was stunned. However, Brother Zhang, you've got one thing wrong. The materials I asked for aren't meant to help you upgrade your spirit gourd to the level of a 4th-rank spiritual weapon. Duan Lingtian's smile faded, and he spoke slowly. Not upgraded to the level of a 4th-grade spiritual weapon. Duan Lingtian's words left Zhang Shouyong unable to react for a moment. This time, Duan Lingtian did not respond to Zhang Shouyong. Instead, he looked at him with a smile, waiting for him to react. Soon, Zhang Shouyong finally reacted. Brother Ling Tian, the weapon refiner you're looking for, isn't he a 3rd-grade weapon refiner? Zhang Shouyong's breathing became rapid, and he gasped when he spoke. That's right. Duan Lingtian nodded. The weapon refiner I'm looking for is indeed a 3rd-rank weapon refiner. Brother Zhang, the next time you see this spiritual weapon gourd of yours, it will have undergone earth-shaking changes. Duan Lingtian said this while shaking the wine gourd in his hand. A radical change? Zhang Shouyong's chest was heaving with excitement, and it took him a long time to calm down. He knew what Duan Lingtian meant. I'm going to have a 3rd-grade spiritual weapon. At this moment, Zhang Shouyong even felt like he was dreaming. However, he soon realized that all this was not a dream, but real. Brother Zhang, I'm leaving now. I'll come back to see you in a month. By then, I'll bring your spiritual gourd back with you. Duan Lingtian raised his hand, put away Zhang Shouyong's wine gourd, said goodbye to Zhang Shouyong, and walked out of the room. Zhang Shouyong, who had reacted quickly, personally escorted Duan Lingtian out of his compound and the Zhang family mansion. Brother Zhang, just wait patiently. At the gate of the Zhang family mansion, Duan Lingtian looked at Zhang Shouyong, whose eyes were still filled with excitement, shook his head, smiled, and turned to leave. Only when Duan Lingtian's back disappeared from his sight did Zhang Shouyong breathe a sigh of relief and turn back to the Zhang family residence. After Duan Lingtian left the Zhang family residence, he naturally did not look for any 3rd-grade weapon refiner. Not to mention that he didn't know any 3rd-grade weapon refiners. Even if he did, he wouldn't go looking for one. You know, he himself is a 3rd-grade weapon refiner. With the 3rd-grade weapon fire he currently possesses, he can completely refine the 3rd-grade spiritual weapon by himself. With the lifelong experience of refining weapons by the Reincarnation Martial Emperor, he can refine a 3rd-grade spiritual weapon that is even better than the 3rd-grade spiritual weapons refined by ordinary weapon refiners. Soon, Duan Lingtian found an inn in the capital to stay. The first thing he did after settling in was to take out the storage ring that Zhang Shouyong had just given him and take out all the materials inside. These materials were exactly what he asked Zhang Shouyong to prepare. First, upgrade the quality of the medicine cauldron. Duan Lingtian did not rush to help Zhang Shouyong upgrade the grade of the spiritual artifact gourd. Instead, he took out his own 4th-grade spiritual artifact medicine cauldron and used a small amount of materials to upgrade its grade. Laugh. A wisp of purple flame burned on Duan Lingtian's palm. And around this purple flame, a layer of copper edge could be seen dancing. Copper fire. Such a flame is exactly the 3rd-grade weapon fire. In a moment, the medicine cauldron and a pile of materials turned into pools of liquid under the influence of the fire, which spread out in all directions and floated in the air. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's hands began to move, and the speed became faster and faster. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Duan Lingtian's hands moved so fast that even some afterimages could be vaguely seen. If there were a high-level weapon refiner here, he would be shocked when he saw the scene before him. It was simply because Duan Lingtian was currently performing an extremely complex weapon refining technique. This complex refining technique. It is so profound and mysterious that ordinary people cannot see through it. It can be imagined that the 3rd-grade spiritual weapon refined with such a refining technique must be extremely outstanding. An hour passed. Pools of liquid began to merge into one. 2 hours passed. 3 hours passed. A full 7 hours passed before Duan Lingtian finally withdrew and stood up. At the same time, a medicine cauldron with a faint bronze luster slowly fell from the air. Call. Duan Lingtian raised his hand and easily took the medicine cauldron. Third grade spiritual medicine cauldron. Looking at the medicine cauldron in his hand, a smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. With this medicine cauldron, it means that from now on, as long as he has enough materials, he can refine third-grade elixirs. After putting away the medicine cauldron, Duan Lingtian did not rush to continue refining Zhang Shouyong's spiritual weapon gourd. Instead, he came to the window of the inn room and opened it. At this time, Duan Lingtian discovered that the sky was already filled with red clouds, and it was obviously evening. I didn't expect it to take so long. Duan Lingtian thought secretly. After Duan Lingtian washed up, he lay down on the bed and took a nap. Refining a third-grade spiritual weapon requires concentration and no slacking off. Therefore, Duan Lingtian now felt a little tired. Soon, Duan Lingtian fell asleep. I slept until I woke up naturally. After waking up, Duan Lingtian found that it was already the afternoon of the next day. Then, he got out of bed, stretched his arms and legs, and a bright smile appeared on his face. I haven't had such a good sleep in a long time. After leaving the inn and having a meal at a nearby restaurant, Duan Lingtian returned to his room and began to work on refining the second, third-rank spiritual weapon. Before refining the second, third-grade spiritual weapon, he took out Zhang Shouyong's spiritual weapon gourd. The spiritual weapon gourd is originally a 5th-grade spiritual weapon. What Duan Lingtian needs to do now is to upgrade it to the level of a 3rd-grade spiritual weapon. This type of unusual spiritual weapon is more complicated than ordinary spiritual weapons like swords. Even the materials required are varied. Looking at the spiritual gourd in his hand, Duan Lingtian shook his head. In his opinion, this spiritual weapon gourd is really flashy and impractical. The materials for refining this kind of spiritual weapon are enough for him to refine several spiritual swords and spiritual knives of the same grade. Laugh. Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and a wisp of purple copper fire ignited in his palm again. Soon, the spiritual gourd turned into a pool of liquid in his hand, and the other materials needed also turned into pools of liquid in his weapon fire. Duan Lingtian's hands kept moving, and his extremely mysterious weapon refining technique reappeared. Duan Lingtian now, with the moment he raised his hands, seemed to have transformed into the thousand-armed Tathagata. The speed at which he refined weapons with his hands was enough to shock anyone. Time passes quietly. The spiritual weapon gourd, in addition to being a container for large amounts of alcohol, is also a powerful spiritual weapon for attack. Therefore, once it is refined, it is much more troublesome than the spiritual medicine cauldron. It took Duan Lingtian 7 hours to refine the 3rd-grade spiritual medicine cauldron. However, this 3rd-grade spiritual gourd took Duan Lingtian a full 15 hours. When Duan Lingtian withdrew his hands and stood up, having successfully refined the 3rd-grade spiritual weapon gourd, it was already early the next morning. At this moment, Duan Lingtian felt a wave of sleepiness coming over him. Before he knew it, he fell back on the bed and fell asleep. When he woke up again, Duan Lingtian was busy again, using the remaining materials to upgrade the Ziwei soft sword in his hand to the level of a 3rd-grade spiritual weapon. Although I have a quasi-royal spiritual weapon that can amplify strength by a full 100% and a 1st-grade spiritual weapon that can amplify strength by nearly 90%, those two spiritual weapons cannot be used in the Dynasty Martial Competition and the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. As the saying goes, a man is innocent unless he possesses a treasure. Duan Lingtian believed that if the quasi-imperial spiritual weapon and 1st-grade spiritual weapon in his hands were exposed, he would inevitably be hunted down by many powerful people from the Han Dynasty and even the major dynasties. Quasi-imperial spiritual weapons and first-grade spiritual weapons are too precious. To a certain extent, they are enough to bring him a catastrophe. Therefore, he urgently needed a spiritual weapon that he could use. The third-grade spiritual weapon is undoubtedly the best choice. Although a third-grade spiritual weapon is enough to attract the covetousness of others, it is not enough to allow those people to act recklessly. After all, within the major dynasties, a third-grade spiritual weapon represents a third-grade weapon refining master, and no one dares to offend him easily. However, first-grade spiritual weapons and quasi-imperial spiritual weapons are different from third-grade spiritual weapons. A spiritual weapon of that level is enough to make any powerful person in the major dynasties take risks for it. Laugh. In Duan Lingtian's hand, the third-grade weapon fire, purple copper fire, was ignited once again. At the same time, he continued to refine the third-grade spiritual weapon. This third-grade spiritual weapon will be a third-grade spiritual sword. The third-grade spirit sword was much easier to refine than the third-grade spirit gourd. Duan Lingtian spent 10 hours and successfully refined it. Done. 10 hours later, Duan Lingtian withdrew and looked at the 3-foot-long green sword in his hand with satisfaction. The Ziwei Soft Sword, which has been upgraded to the level of a third-grade spiritual weapon, has an extra layer of light purple sheen around it, making it look extremely extraordinary. Try. With a thought, Duan Lingtian's yuanli surged. Wow. At the same time, above Duan Lingtian's head, the power of heaven and earth was turbulent and finally gathered into the phantoms of ancient horned dragons, winding down and falling, looking lifelike. There are a total of 7 ancient horned dragon phantoms. Along with Duan Lingtian's yuanli, it merged into the Ziwei Soft Sword in his hand. Buzz. The Ziwei Soft Sword straightened instantly. At the same time, in the void above Duan Lingtian's head, on the side of the 7 ancient horned dragon phantoms, 4 more ancient horned dragon phantoms appeared, plus 9,000 ancient giant elephant phantoms. 9,000 phantoms of ancient giant elephants surrounded the 11 phantoms of ancient horned dragons like stars surrounding the moon. Not bad. An increase of 70%. A smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's lips, and he was very satisfied with this result. Although I previously upgraded Brother Zhang's spiritual weapon gourd to the third-grade spiritual weapon level, I haven't tried it yet. It should also be able to increase it by 70%, right? Out of curiosity, Duan Lingtian took out the spiritual weapon gourd. As the yuanli merged into the spiritual weapon gourd. Wow. Duan Lingtian soon discovered that above his head, there were indeed 4 more phantoms of ancient horned dragons and 9,000 phantoms of ancient giant elephants. Just like my Ziwei Soft Sword, it can amplify by 70%. Duan Lingtian smiled with satisfaction. After staying in the inn for another full month, Duan Lingtian further improved his cultivation and wind state of mind before checking out. After leaving the inn, he went directly to the Zhang family mansion. Young Master Lingtian. As soon as Duan Lingtian arrived at the gate of the Zhang family mansion, a Zhang family guard stepped out and bowed respectfully to him. Master Lingtian. Immediately, the remaining Zhang family members also hurriedly saluted Duan Lingtian. Do you know me? Duan Lingtian looked at the Zhang family general who was leading the group, his face filled with astonishment. He remembers it very clearly. A month ago, when he came to the Zhang family mansion, this person was not among the several Zhang family guards standing here guarding the gate of the Zhang family mansion. Master Lingtian, you may not recognize me, but a month ago, I saw you by the artificial lake in our Zhang family mansion. The Zhang family general said hurriedly. His face was filled with awe. He knew that this young man in purple, although he looked very young, was a good friend of the eldest son of their Zhang family. So that's how it is. Duan Lingtian suddenly understood. A month ago, on the artificial lake of the Zhang family mansion, He had indeed attracted many members of the Zhang family to watch because he had teased Zhang Shuyuan with his soul skill Thousand Illusions. At that time, he didn't pay attention to the onlookers. It was obvious that this Zhang family general was joining in the fun among the crowd. Young Master Ling Tian, please. Led by the Zhang family's retainer, Duan Ling Tian once again entered the Zhang family residence and arrived at the compound where Zhang Shouyong and his wife lived. Master Ling Tian, I'll be leaving first. The Zhang family's retainer greeted Duan Ling Tian respectfully and turned to leave. Trouble. Duan Ling Tian nodded and immediately walked into the courtyard. The compound was open and the door was not closed. Brother Ling Tian. As soon as Duan Ling Tian entered the compound, he heard an extremely excited voice coming from inside. The owner of the voice seemed to have been waiting for him for a long time. Duan Ling Tian was not unfamiliar with this voice. Brother Zhang. Duan Ling Tian smiled as he saw Zhang Shouyong, the eldest son of the Zhang family, hurried out and appeared before him. Brother Ling Tian, please. Zhang Shouyong hurriedly invited Duan Ling Tian into the courtyard and ordered the maidservant beside him. No one is allowed to come in without my permission. Yes. Although the maid didn't know what had happened to make the young master lose his composure, she still responded respectfully. Soon, Duan Ling Tian was welcomed into a spacious room by Zhang Shouyong. Zhang Shouyong stared at Duan Ling Tian with a burning gaze, rubbing his hands together, his face full of anticipation, completely devoid of his usual calm demeanor. Brother Ling Tian, my spiritual weapon gourd. Zhang Shouyong took a deep breath and looked at Duan Ling Tian with hope. Well, Duan Ling Tian pretended to sigh. Seeing Duan Ling Tian like this, Zhang Shouyong's expression changed slightly. Could it be that the third-grade weapon refiner was unwilling to help him upgrade the spiritual weapon gourd to the level of a third-grade spiritual weapon? For a moment, he felt a little lost. Brother Ling Tian, if that senior doesn't want to help, forget it. Anyway, besides that spiritual weapon gourd, I also have another fourth-grade spiritual weapon. After Zhang Shouyong came to his senses, he began to comfort Duan Ling Tian. Brother Zhang, when did I ever say that senior was unwilling to take action? Seeing Zhang Shouyong like this, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but laugh. You. Zhang Shouyong was stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly. Only then did he realize that Duan Ling Tian had been sighing on purpose. Brother Zhang, here you go. Duan Ling Tian raised his hand, and a wine gourd appeared out of thin air in his hand, which he handed to Zhang Shouyong. Is this the wine gourd I had earlier? Zhang Shouyong took the wine gourd and couldn't help being stunned when he saw the more delicate spiritual gourd in his hand that emitted a faint luster. The current wine gourd is completely different from the previous one. If it's not your wine gourd, could it be mine? Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. Zhang Shouyong's face flushed slightly when he heard this. At the same time, a ball of flame formed by Yuan Li suddenly ignited in his hand, and then merged into the spiritual weapon gourd in his hand. In an instant, the luster around the spiritual weapon gourd became extremely deep. Wow! Above Zhang Shouyong's head, the power of heaven and earth surged, finally converging into the shadows of ancient horned dragons. 11 phantoms of ancient dragons first appeared, representing Zhang Shouyong's current cultivation level of the 8th level of the Void Realm. Immediately afterwards, 7 more phantoms of ancient horned dragons appeared on the side of these 11 phantoms of ancient horned dragons, plus 7,000 phantoms of ancient giant elephants. The 7,000 phantoms of ancient giant elephants, as if paying homage to the Supreme Emperor, surround the 18 phantoms of ancient horned dragons like stars surrounding the moon. Amplifying the power of 7 ancient horned dragons, plus the power of 7,000 ancient giant elephants. Zhang Shouyong looked up at the void above his head, his expression a little dazed for a moment. So, my spiritual gourd can amplify power by a full 70%. Now, even if it's placed among a bunch of third-grade spiritual weapons, it's still considered the best of the best. Zhang Shouyong's heart couldn't help but tremble violently. The scene before him was really beyond his expectations. It made him feel extremely shocked. Originally, in his opinion, as long as his spiritual weapon gourd can be upgraded to the level of a third-grade spiritual weapon, he will be satisfied even if it can only increase the power by 66% or 67%. But now, it was completely beyond his expectations. 70%. A full 70%. A third-grade spiritual weapon with a 70% amplification. Although, he is not a weapon refiner and is not familiar with weapon refining. But even if you haven't eaten pork, you have seen pigs run. He believed that this third-grade spiritual weapon with a 70% increase in power was not available in the Han Dynasty, not even in the major dynasties. It might not even be available in the outside world. Duan Lingtian stood aside, his face calm. He noticed the changes in Zhang Shouyong's expression from beginning to end. He was not surprised by Zhang Shouyong's shock. Any normal person would be shocked after knowing the amplifying power of the spiritual weapon gourd. The third-grade spiritual weapon I refined is equivalent to the third-grade spiritual weapon refined by the Samsara Martial Emperor himself. It has a 70% increase in power. Looking across the entire Yinshao continent, I'm afraid no weapon refiner can refine such a third-grade spiritual weapon. Duan Lingtian thought secretly. Perhaps there are still many second-grade weapon refiners, or even first-grade weapon refiners in Yinshao continent. However, these weapon refiners might be able to easily refine a second-grade spiritual weapon or a first-grade spiritual weapon that is superior to a third-grade spiritual weapon with a 70% amplification. But if they were asked to refine a third-grade spiritual weapon, it would be almost impossible for them to refine a third-grade spiritual weapon that could amplify 70%. It has nothing to do with the refiner's level, but rather with the refiner's understanding and experience in the art of refinement. In this era, I haven't yet traveled to the outside domain, but I wonder if there has appeared in Yinshao continent a figure who can rival the Samsara Martial Emperor in the art of weapon refining. However, one thing is certain. During the second life of the reincarnation Martial Emperor, no weapon refiner in the Cloud continent could match him. Duan Lingtian was absolutely certain of this through the memories of the reincarnation Martial Emperor. Gradually, Duan Lingtian withdrew his thoughts. Zhang Shouyong finally came back to his senses, caressing the spiritual weapon gourd in his hand lovingly, his eyes full of a burning glow. "Brother Zhang," that senior said, "he only helped you increase the amplification power of your wine gourd, but he didn't help you increase the capacity of the wine gourd." Duan Lingtian looked at Zhang Shouyong and said with a smile, "So, the wine gourd in your hand can only hold as much wine as it could in the past." Zhang Shouyong came back to his senses and shook his head. "That doesn't matter. Anyway, its original capacity is more than enough for me." After saying this, Zhang Shouyong completely regained consciousness, took a deep breath, and looked at Duan Lingtian sincerely. "Brother Lingtian, thank you." Zhang Shouyong's thanks were extremely sincere. "Brother Zhang, you're being too polite. Our acquaintance is fate. Besides, if you hadn't come to my aid back in the Qinglin Empire's Tianhuang ancient city, I would have died at the hands of that withered old man." Duan Lingtian shook his head and smiled, then spoke slowly. Thinking of the thrilling scene in the Qionyong restaurant in Tianhuang ancient city, he still feels a lingering fear. At that time, not only was the cultivation of Xiong Quan, who had always been by his side, was destroyed, but even he and Li Fei were in imminent danger. At the critical moment, it was Zhang Shouyong who took action and killed the withered old man. Duan Lingtian would never forget this life-saving grace. As the saying goes, karma is cyclical, good deeds will be rewarded. In the past, I didn't quite believe this, but today I do. After Duan Lingtian's reminder, Zhang Shouyong couldn't help but recall the scene of the past and sighed. "Brother Lingtian." Soon, Zhang Shouyong's face became serious, and he said word by word, "From now on, if you have any orders, I, Zhang Shouyong, will go through fire and water without hesitation." Throughout the Han Dynasty, there was only one third-grade spiritual weapon displayed in public, and it was in the hands of the royal family of the Han Dynasty. Now, Duan Lingtian gave him a third-grade spiritual weapon. To him, it was a great favor that he could never repay. "Brother Zhang, you're too kind, but I do have something I'd like to trouble you with." Duan Lingtian laughed. "Please go ahead." Zhang Shouyong listened attentively. "Brother Zhang, if possible, I hope you can use your connections to help me find an extremely rare medicinal herb. The picture above is that herb. I call it the immortal root." Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and a painting appeared in his hand. In the painting, a root-shaped medicinal herb is presented. Upon closer inspection, it resembles the sharp claws of the legendary mythical beast Phoenix. The root of immortality. Zhang Shouyong raised his brows and solemnly took the painting from Duan Lingtian's hand. "Brother Lingtian, don't worry. I will do my best to find this medicinal herb for you." "Thank you, Brother Zhang." Duan Lingtian quickly thanked him, then added, "Also, if Brother Zhang has a way to obtain the spiritual fruit for Void Realm warriors that you don't need, I hope you can transfer it to me. I will definitely reward you handsomely." Later on, Duan Lingtian began to hesitate. After all, Zhang Shouyong is also a warrior who has entered the Void Realm. He is now also fighting on the road to the 10 Dynasty's martial arts competition. If he had never taken the spiritual fruit before, he would definitely not give it to others. Everyone has selfish desires. Duan Lingtian could understand this. "Brother Lingtian, if you say that, you don't consider me a friend. You've done me a great favor by asking someone to help me upgrade my spiritual gourd to the level of a third-rank spiritual weapon. If I could truly obtain a spiritual fruit reserved for warriors entering the Void Realm, I would offer it to you with both hands without even a frown." Zhang Shouyong said this with a solemn oath. "Thank you, Brother Zhang." Duan Lingtian thanked him again, and then said, "Brother Zhang, if that's the case, I'll take my leave now." "Brother Lingtian, how about you stay at my place before the Dynasty martial arts competition?" Zhang Shouyong suggested. "Need not." Duan Lingtian politely declined Zhang Shouyong's offer. "I have things to do over there, so it would be more convenient for me to go back." He still remembers. The last time he went to the treasure pavilion in Hana City, he told the pavilion master Xiang Ying that if he got any news about the spiritual fruits and the immortal root for warriors entering the Void Realm, he should ask Xiang Ying to find him at the Blackstone Empire's residence in the capital of the Han Dynasty. If Xiang Ying really got the news and came to find him, but he was not there, he would really regret it. Zhang Shouyong nodded and did not insist. "I'll take you out of the house." Immediately afterwards, Zhang Shouyong prepared to escort Duan Lingtian out of the Zhang family residence. As the two of them walked out of the compound side by side, they saw a figure rushing towards them. It was Wang Qiong. "Qiong, what's the rush?" Zhang Shouyong saw Wang Qiong coming back in a hurry, out of breath, and couldn't help but ask curiously. Wang Qiong breathed heavily as he said, "Brother Yong, Dad asked you to go over. The great elder found a spiritual fruit outside, and he's going to give it to you. It's just that right now, second mother is bringing second brother to Dad to ask for that spiritual fruit, which is putting Dad in a difficult position. So Dad used his Yuanli to condense his voice and had someone notify me to ask you to come over." Wang Qiong finished speaking in one breath. Spiritual fruit? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up. Since the Zhang family patriarch wanted to give the spiritual fruit to Zhang Shouyong, that spiritual fruit was undoubtedly the spiritual fruit that warriors who had entered the Void Realm could consume. "Brother Lingtian, it seems you are lucky." Zhang Shouyong smiled at Duan Lingtian. Before Wang Qiong could react, Zhang Shouyong called out to Duan Lingtian and headed towards the center of the Zhang family mansion. The Zhang family main hall is right there. Along the way, Duan Lingtian and Zhang Shouyong walked side by side. The Zhang family guards, servants, and maids they met on the way all bowed respectfully to Zhang Shouyong. Young master. Even the Zhang family members were extremely respectful to Zhang Shouyong. With big brother Zhang's talent and strength, it's almost certain that he will inherit the position of head of the Zhang family in the future. Duan Lingtian thought secretly. Brother Zhang, if you have never taken that spiritual fruit before, you can take it yourself. Duan Lingtian said to Zhang Shouyong. Although he was eager to obtain a spiritual fruit that was exclusively for warriors entering the Void Realm. However, as the saying goes, a gentleman does not take away what others love. If that spiritual fruit is also useful to Zhang Shouyong, he would really feel guilty about it. Brother Lingtian, regardless of whether I have consumed that spiritual fruit in the past, I will give it to you. Zhang Shouyong said this with a solemn oath. This is his promise, a man's promise. The third-grade spiritual weapon Duan Lingtian gave him was undoubtedly a great favor, and even if he used spiritual fruits to repay it, it would be difficult to repay it. But he still thinks that every bit he can pay back is a good deal. Zhang Shouyong's determination made Duan Lingtian feel warm in his heart. Soon, Duan Lingtian followed Zhang Shouyong into the Zhang family hall. The Zhang family hall is magnificent and golden, and 3 people are standing inside. One of them stood aside. The other 2 stood on the other side, opposite the former. The person standing alone on the side was a dignified middle-aged man wearing a blue robe, with a look of majesty without anger. He should be the head of the Zhang family. With just one glance, Duan Lingtian guessed the identity of the majestic middle-aged man. And the facts prove that Duan Lingtian was not wrong. Brother Lingtian, this is my father, and he is also the patriarch of our Zhang family. Zhang Shouyong's voice reached Duan Lingtian's ears at the right moment. Clan leader Zhang. Duan Lingtian looked at the Zhang family patriarch and nodded slightly in greeting. The Zhang family patriarch nodded to Duan Lingtian. You must be Younger's friend, right? You're so young, yet you possess such amazing skills. It's truly astonishing. As he spoke later, the Zhang family leader's eyes seemed to have a deeper meaning. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but choke. Then, Duan Lingtian's gaze fell on the other 2 people in the hall. A middle-aged woman and a young man. Now, the 2 of them were glaring at him, and if the anger in their eyes could erupt, it would probably burn him to ashes. Duan Lingtian was no stranger to these 2 people. The wife of the Zhang family's patriarch and the second young master of the Zhang family, Zhang Shouyuan. I guess the reason why Patriarch Zhang looked at me like that was because I taught Zhang Shouyuan a lesson 2 months ago. At this moment, it was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to guess this. Patriarch Zhang, thank you for your praise. However, facing the meaningful words from the Zhang family head, Duan Lingtian remained calm and neither humble nor arrogant. This greatly impressed the Zhang family head. He looked at Zhang Shouyong and said, Younger, you've made an incredible friend. I heard that your friend is also planning to participate in the Dynasty Martial Arts competition in 4 months. I'm really looking forward to it. Brother Lingtian will definitely not let you down, Dad. Zhang Shouyong nodded, his words expressing his confidence in Duan Lingtian. Dad, I heard that the Great Elder found a spiritual fruit? Soon, Zhang Shouyong asked. Almost as soon as Zhang Shouyong finished speaking, the woman and Zhang Shouyuan beside him changed their expressions drastically. The 2 looked at each other and saw unwillingness in each other's eyes. Damn it, how did he get the news so quickly? The woman's voice, condensed with her energy, was filled with violence. Mother, I won't give up. If I can get that spiritual fruit, I will definitely be able to break through to the 7th level of the Void Realm in one fell swoop. Then, I will definitely be able to advance in the Dynasty Martial Competition and qualify to participate in the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. Zhang Shouyuan's voice was filled with resentment. Yes. In response to Zhang Shouyong's question, the Zhang family patriarch nodded, raised his hand, and a spiritual fruit with flowing light appeared out of thin air in his hand. When Zhang Shouyong saw this spiritual fruit, his eyes lit up. Duan Lingtian, who was standing next to Zhang Shouyong, had a bitter smile on his face. Not for any other reason. Just because he had seen this spiritual fruit. Not only had he seen it, he had also taken it. Lingshu fruit. At the beginning, it was one of the two spiritual fruits given by Xiang Ying, the owner of the treasure pavilion in Hana City, in exchange. When his cultivation level was close to the second stage of entering the Void Realm, it was because he took the Lingshu fruit that he was able to break through to the third stage of entering the Void Realm in one fell swoop. Therefore, for him now, the Lingshu fruit is useless. However, it seems that Brother Zhang has never taken this Lingshu fruit. While Duan Lingtian was feeling extremely disappointed, he noticed Zhang Shouyong's burning gaze towards the Lingshu fruit, a look that seemed to show that he couldn't wait to take the Lingshu fruit for himself. However, soon, Duan Lingtian saw Zhang Shouyong retract his gaze. At the same time, a clear voice of Yuanli condensed came to his ears. Brother Lingtian, after I obtain this spiritual fruit, I will give it to you. With the help of this spiritual fruit, your cultivation will surely be able to advance further. It was the sound of Zhang Shouyong's Yuanli. Duan Lingtian was stunned, completely stunned. Just a moment ago, he realized that Zhang Shouyong had never taken the Lingshu fruit before. The next moment, Zhang Shouyong was about to give him the Lingshu fruit. For a moment, Duan Lingtian felt warm in his heart. Brother Zhang is indeed a friend worth making close friends with. Duan Lingtian sighed inwardly. However, Duan Lingtian now deliberately restrained his emotions and said with a concentrated voice, Brother Zhang, if I'm not mistaken, you haven't taken this spiritual fruit before, right? Zhang Shouyong did not object. He spoke bluntly, his Yuanli condensed into a voice. I have taken a spiritual fruit specially made for warriors entering the Void Realm before, but it was not this kind of spiritual fruit. Then you still want to give it to me? If you take it yourself, I'm afraid you can break through to the 9th level of the Void Realm in a short period of time, right? Duan Lingtian asked. This is my promise to you. Zhang Shouyong's answer was simple and straightforward, which made Duan Lingtian feel even warmer. Finally, Duan Lingtian decided not to tease Zhang Shouyong anymore. Brother Zhang, I'm afraid you won't get what you want. Zhang Shouyong was stunned. I once took a spiritual fruit specially made for warriors entering the Void Realm. However, I'm luckier than you. The fruit I took was this spiritual void fruit. Duan Lingtian said with his Yuanli concentrated voice. At the same time, the Zhang family patriarch spoke. Younger, this is a Lingshu fruit. It can improve the cultivation of warriors in the Void Realm to a certain extent. If you take this spiritual fruit, you should be able to break through to the 9th level of the Void Realm in a short period of time. Now, I'm going to give you this spiritual fruit. I hope you can win glory for my Zhang family and the Han Dynasty at the Dynasty Martial Competition or even the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. Finally, the Zhang family patriarch handed over the Lingshu fruit in his hand. Dad, please rest assured. I will definitely live up to everyone's expectations. Zhang Shouyong took a deep breath and slowly stretched out his hand, ready to take the Lingshu fruit. At this moment, his mood was very complicated. I thought this spiritual fruit was going to be given to Duan Lingtian, but I didn't expect that Duan Lingtian had actually consumed this spiritual fruit in the past. He had a feeling of regaining what he had lost, etc. However, just when Zhang Shouyong was about to take the Lingshu fruit, a figure rushed out and stopped Zhang Shouyong. The one who stopped Zhang Shouyong was none other than the wife of the Zhang family's patriarch. Second mother? Zhang Shouyong frowned, his face slightly gloomy. Although he guessed that his stepmother would definitely not be willing to let him get the Lingshu fruit, he did not expect the other party to be so direct. Now that his father has expressed his stance, why is she still trying to stop him? This scene made Duan Lingtian stunned. This evil woman, wouldn't she still want to fight for the Lingshu fruit for her son at this time? Duan Lingtian raised his brows, not optimistic about the woman. Now, the Zhang family patriarch also looked unhappy. His wife actually didn't give him face in front of outsiders. For a moment, there was a hint of anger in the depths of his eyes. What are you doing? The Zhang family head's tone was extremely low. It was obvious that he was talking to the woman, his wife. I think this Lingshu fruit should not be given to him, but to Yuan'er. The woman turned around, looked at the head of the Zhang family, and spoke bluntly. Snort. The Zhang family head snorted coldly. I know Yuan'er is your biological son, so you always favor him. But this matter concerns our Zhang family and our Han dynasty. How can I allow a woman like you to act recklessly? I'm just thinking about our Zhang family. The woman spoke word by word. I know he has incredible talent, and he's already reached the 8th level of the Void Realm. It shouldn't be difficult for him to stand out in the Dynasty Martial Arts competition. But precisely because of this, I feel the Lingshu fruit shouldn't be given to him, but to Yuan'er. The head of the Zhang family frowned and looked at the woman, wondering why she said that. Duan Lingtian and Zhang Shouyong were now sizing up the woman with great interest, wanting to know what she could say. Now, among the young generation of our Zhang family, he is the strongest. I cannot deny this. But the strongest one under him is Yuan'er. You should not deny this, right? The middle-aged woman looked at her husband, the head of the Zhang family, and asked. The Zhang family head nodded. With his cultivation level, it wouldn't be difficult for him to advance to the next level of the Dynasty Martial Competition and qualify for the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. But Yuan'er is different. Unless Yuan'er can take this Lingshu fruit and break through to the 7th level of the nascent Void Realm. Otherwise, he will not be able to advance in the Dynasty Martial Competition and qualify for the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. The woman spoke her mind without restraint. Then what? The Zhang family had asked. Then, I felt that giving him the Lingshu fruit was a waste. Simply because, regardless of whether he took the Lingshu fruit or not, he could still advance in the Dynasty Martial Competition and qualify to participate in the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. The woman continued, and if Yuan'er didn't have this Lingshu fruit, he wouldn't have been able to qualify for the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. In my opinion, using a Lingshu fruit to exchange for an additional spot for our Zhang family to advance to the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition is a good thing. Duan Lingtian stood aside, a hint of sarcasm on his face. This evil woman really took great pains for her own son and could even say such words. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, the evil woman's words were all bullshit. Even if the Lingshu fruit was given to her biological son, and her biological son qualified for the 10 Dynasties Martial Arts Competition, wouldn't he still be at the bottom? When the 10 Dynasties Martial Arts Competition begins, I will probably be eliminated in the first round. And if the Lingshu fruit is given to Zhang Shouyong may even have a chance to break through to the Dongshu realm before the 10 Dynasties Martial Arts Competition. However, breaking through to the Void Realm isn't that easy. I wonder what level of Earth Realm Brother Zhang has comprehended now. Duan Lingtian thought secretly. Zhang Shouyong, who was standing next to Duan Lingtian, remained calm from beginning to end, as if everything that was happening before his eyes had nothing to do with him. Soon, the patriarch of the Zhang family spoke. What he said was undoubtedly what Duan Lingtian had just thought in his mind. This Lingshu fruit is enough to influence Yong'er's performance in the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. If he can break through to the Dongshu realm before the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition, he might even have a chance to compete for first place in the 10 Dynasties Martial Competition. There were clanging sounds as the Zhang family patriarch spoke. First in the 10 Dynasties Martial Arts Competition. How glorious is that? You also said even if he can break through to the 9th level of the entry Void Realm, in a short period of time with this Lingshu fruit, how can he break through to the Void Cavern Realm so easily? Even if his Yuanli improves to meet the requirements in the remaining year or so, what about his understanding of the realm of mind? The woman spoke confidently, not wanting to be outdone. That Dongshu realm isn't so easy to comprehend. Some warriors who enter the Void Realm, because they fail to comprehend the Dongshu realm, remain at the 9th level of the Void Realm for their entire lives. The Dongshu artistic conception, also known as the intermediate artistic conception, is superior to the initial artistic conception generally comprehended by warriors entering the Void Realm. Above the 9th level of the initial artistic conception is the 1st level of the intermediate artistic conception. To comprehend, one needs extremely high level of understanding. Snort. The Zhang family head hummed softly. Then you have confidence that after Yuan'er takes the Lingshu fruit, he will definitely be able to advance in the dynasty martial competition and qualify for the 10 dynasties martial competition, bringing glory to our Zhang family? If you have confidence, what's the harm in me giving this Lingshu fruit to Yuan'er? The Zhang family head said here. A victorious smile appeared on the woman's face, and she glanced at Zhang Shouyong with some pride. However, the smile on her face soon froze again. Just because the head of the Zhang family had not finished speaking. However, if Yuan'er fails to qualify for the 10 dynasties martial competition after taking the Lingshu fruit, then I will punish him and make him ineligible for the position of the next patriarch of the Zhang family for the rest of his life. The next words of the Zhang family head were resounding. The woman and Zhang Shuyuan, who was standing beside her, both changed their expressions drastically. They didn't expect that the head of the Zhang family would say such a thing. The position of the next generation patriarch of the Zhang family. If nothing unexpected happens, it must be Zhang Shuyuan. Because Zhang Shouyong had already made it clear that he had no interest in becoming the next patriarch of the Zhang family. Otherwise, Zhang Shouyong would have become the heir to the Zhang family patriarch. It can be said that Zhang Shouyong would not compete with his second brother, Zhang Shuyuan, for the position of clan leader. Mom, I don't want that Lingshu fruit anymore. I don't want it anymore. Zhang Shuyuan panicked and quickly used his inner strength to condense his voice into the woman's ears. What a joke. As for the position of the next generation patriarch of the Zhang family, because his eldest brother Zhang Shouyong was not interested, although it had not been officially announced who would inherit it, everyone knew it would definitely be him. Now, because of a Lingshu fruit, he might even lose the opportunity to inherit the position of patriarch of the Zhang family, which he naturally doesn't want. He was unwilling to gamble with the position of the Zhang family patriarch. Because, even if he took the Lingshu fruit and broke through to the 7th level of the Ruxu realm before the dynasty martial competition, he was not completely sure that he could qualify for the 10 dynasties martial competition. The woman's expression also changed completely. She didn't expect her husband to use this to threaten her and her son. She gritted her teeth, still feeling unwilling to give in. I think the ownership of the Lingshu fruit should be decided by a vote of the elders of our Zhang family. The woman changed the subject and said in a deep voice, whether he or Yuan'er takes the Lingshu fruit, it's all a gamble. So, why should he be given priority? Why? The woman's words were very clear. Let the elders of the Zhang family vote to decide. That's enough. Seeing his wife making such comments, the head of the Zhang family finally couldn't help but yelled angrily with a sullen face. The woman was so frightened that she shut her mouth. However, at this moment, Zhang Shouyong, who had been silent the whole time, spoke up. Dad, since second mother is interested in having the elders vote together to decide who will own the Lingshu fruit, then let the elders come. Zhang Shouyong suddenly spoke and said these words. For a moment, not only the head of the Zhang family was stunned, but even the woman and Zhang Shouyuan were stunned. They didn't expect that Zhang Shouyong would agree. Brother Zhang. Duan Lingtian was also dumbfounded. The current situation is clearly favorable to his brother Zhang, so why is he digging his own grave? I can't figure it out. He really couldn't understand it. As expected of the eldest son of our Zhang family, he is so bold. I will send someone to invite the elders right away." A victorious smile appeared on the woman's face, her eyes sparkling with brilliance. She walked out of the hall and gave instructions to the servants guarding outside. As long as all the elders of the Zhang family gathered together, she was sure that most of them would side with her son. You know, her son is the future patriarch of the Zhang family. Under the same circumstances, she was not worried that her son would lose to Zhang Shouyong in the vote of the elders of the Zhang family. Yong'er, the head of the Zhang family frowned, looking puzzled. Duan Lingtian looked at Zhang Shouyong in confusion and asked, "Brother Zhang, if you hadn't agreed earlier, the Lingshu fruit would have been yours. What you did was truly irrational. Since you, the second mother, dare to make such a request, you must be confident that most of the elders of the Zhang family will favor her son." Duan Lingtian couldn't help but worry about Zhang Shouyong. What he couldn't understand the most was that Zhang Shouyong actually agreed to the unreasonable request of that evil woman. You know, just now under the wrath of the Zhang family head, the evil woman didn't dare to speak. The Lingshu fruit was about to become Zhang Shouyong's possession. But at the critical moment, Zhang Shouyong seemed to be throwing a rope to trip himself, which was really speechless. "Brother Lingtian, if I don't agree to second mother's request, even if she stops talking because of my father's rage, she won't truly be resigned. This time, I'm going to make her give up completely." Deep in Zhang Shouyong's eyes flashed a terrifying glint, and he replied with a condensed voice using his Yuanli. Duan Lingtian was stunned. He didn't expect that all this was Zhang Shouyong's plan. Zhang Shouyong obviously had everything under control. "It seems that you, Brother Zhang, are already very confident. I will wait and see and prepare to watch the show." Duan Lingtian breathed a sigh of relief. "It's going to be a good show. It definitely won't disappoint you." Zhang Shouyong replied. "I'm looking forward to it." Duan Lingtian nodded. As time passed, the Zhang family hall, which originally had only 5 people, became completely lively. Not only the group of elders who stayed in the Zhang family mansion, but even the elders who were in charge of the Zhang family's businesses in various places in the capital city had returned. 37 elders gathered together. Among them, a small half are middle-aged men, and the rest are almost all elderly. A few of them even had white hair and eyebrows, and were obviously over 100 years old. However, due to their advanced cultivation, they all looked full of energy. "Chief, what's the important matter that asked us to come back?" Soon, an elder of the Zhang family started asking. Upon hearing this, the Zhang family patriarch told the whole story without any reservation. All of a sudden, the elders of the Zhang family also understood the reason why they were asked to come back. So, there's only one Lingshu fruit, but one of the 2 young masters must be chosen to take it. A group of elders began to look back and forth between Zhang Shouyong and Zhang Shouyuan. It's like picking goods. This left Duan Lingtian, who was standing aside, speechless again. However, Zhang Shouyong had a blank expression on his face, as if he didn't take what was happening in front of him seriously at all. His calmness was frightening. "I actually think that the possibility of the second young master qualifying for the 10 Dynasties martial competition is greater than the possibility of the first young master breaking through to the Void Realm before the 10 Dynasties martial competition," a middle-aged elder said. The middle-aged elder's words were like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. "I think so too. I agree with that." Most of the remaining elders nodded in agreement. In their opinion, with the second young master Zhang Shouyuan's current cultivation level, once he takes the Lingshu fruit, it is almost certain that he will be able to break through to the 7th level of the Void Realm before the Dynasty martial arts competition. A warrior who has entered the 7th level of the Void Realm still has a great chance to stand out in the Dynasty martial arts competition and qualify for the 10 Dynasties martial arts competition. On the other hand, the second young master Zhang Shouyong had a bit of a hard time. The Dongshu realm is no longer simply a matter of Yuanli, but more importantly, it is the comprehension of the artistic conception. If one does not fully comprehend the artistic conception, no matter how strong one's Yuanli is, one will not be able to break through to the Dongshu realm. In order to break through to the Dongshu realm, in addition to meeting the requirements of Yuanli, it is more important to first comprehend the Dongshu artistic conception, which is the intermediate artistic conception. This is often the most difficult part. In such a comparison, and considering that the second young master Zhang Shuyuan would be the future patriarch of the Zhang family, a group of elders already had an idea in their minds. Invisibly, he leaned towards the second young master Zhang Shuyuan. Seeing that most of the elders favored her son, the woman standing aside, the wife of the Zhang family patriarch, smiled triumphantly and glanced at Zhang Shuyuan proudly again. Zhang Shuyuan also smiled and said modestly, "Thank you for your praise, elders." And just at this moment, snort. A cold snort suddenly sounded, breaking the noisy atmosphere. In an instant, the atmosphere became quiet and silent. Everyone's eyes fell on the person who snorted coldly. The person who snorted coldly. It was not someone else, but Zhang Shuyong, who was standing next to Duan Lingtian. For a moment, many elders of the Zhang family frowned and looked unhappy. The eldest young master has been away for a while, but he's become less and less aware of the rules. Some elders who are over 100 years old said lightly. There was a strong sense of blame in his tone. The clan leader's wife and Zhang Shuyuan, who were standing by, smiled even more brightly after seeing this scene. They both felt that Zhang Shuyong was seeking his own death. After Zhang Shuyong made such a fuss, it would be strange if any elders voted for him. Yonger. Seeing that Zhang Shuyong had angered many elders, the head of the Zhang family frowned, somewhat puzzled. According to his understanding of his eldest son is not an impulsive person. Elders. Zhang Shuyong glanced at the Zhang family elders calmly and spoke calmly. I don't think you have much confidence in me being able to break through to the Dongshu realm before the 10 Dynasties martial competition after taking the Lingshu fruit. Or maybe it's time for me to give you some confidence. Zhang Shuyong changed the subject later in his speech. Almost at the moment when Zhang Shuyong finished speaking. Wow. On Zhang Shuyuan's body, strands of condensed and clearly visible ochre-colored energy wrapped around his body, emitting a trace of majestic aura. At the same time, above the void, the power of heaven and earth trembled and finally gathered into the shadow of a 9-headed ancient horned dragon. The power of the 9-headed ancient horned dragon. Ninth level of the initial stage of the earth realm. Suddenly, a white-browed elder was the first to react and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Soon after, more and more people reacted, including Duan Lingtian. 9th level initial stage of Earth Realm? Duan Lingtian stared at Zhang Shuyuan beside him and couldn't help but gasp. Now, he finally understood Zhang Shuyuan's plan. It turned out that Zhang Shuyuan had been waiting for this moment. He wants to prove himself with his own strength. If he takes the Lingshu fruit, he will be able to successfully break through to the Dongshu realm before the 10 Dynasties martial arts competition. Brother Zhang's 9th level initial Earth realm seems to be more than just a recent realization. He's clearly approaching the intermediate Earth realm now. Duan Lingtian, who inherited the memories of the reincarnation Martial Emperor, had a keen eye and saw at a glance that Zhang Shuyuan's comprehension of the 9th level initial stage of the Earth realm was not simple. Well, after being stunned for a while, the head of the Zhang family shouted loudly, his face full of excitement. It's a blessing for my Zhang family. It's a blessing for my Zhang family. With the eldest young master in the Zhang family, why should we worry about not prospering? Soon, many elders of the Zhang family began to flatter Zhang Shuyuan. Some of the Zhang family elders, who had just sided with Zhang Shuyuan a moment ago, now seemed like fence-sitters, swaying with the wind. They hadn't thought of it before. Zhang Shuyuan, whose cultivation level was only at the 8th level of the Void Realm, actually comprehended the 9th level initial stage of the Earth Realm. It seems that this time, our Zhang family will make a big splash on the stage of the 10 Dynasties martial arts competition. An elder with white hair and eyebrows couldn't help but say in surprise. The clan leader's wife and Zhang Shoyuan stood aside, stunned on the ground. The smiles on their faces had long since completely frozen, and deep in their eyes, there seemed to be a hint of disbelief and shock. They never imagined that Zhang Shoyong was not only gifted, but also had such incredible comprehension. He actually comprehended the 9th level initial stage of the Earth. Elders, you may now vote. Who should be given this Lingshu fruit? The voice of the Zhang family patriarch sounded at the right time. At this moment, the result is no longer in doubt. Zhang Shoyong, the eldest son of the Zhang family, gained the support of all the elders of the Zhang family after showing his 9th level initial stage Earth Realm. Everyone hoped that he would take the Lingshu fruit and break through to the Dongshu realm before the 10 Dynasties martial arts competition and win great glory for the Zhang family at the 10 Dynasties martial arts competition. Brother Zhang, congratulations. Seeing that Zhang Shoyong had obtained the Lingshu fruit, Duan Lingtian concentrated his energy and congratulated him. Brother Lingtian, I'm so sorry for making you worry. Zhang Shoyong said apologetically. It's okay, as long as I get the Lingshu fruit. Duan Lingtian shook his head, then glanced at the completely darkened night sky and said, however, it's getting late now, so I should leave. We'll see you at the Dynasty martial arts competition. As Zhang Shoyong escorted Duan Lingtian out, he said with a smile, perhaps we don't have to wait for the Dynasty martial competition. Perhaps in a few days, I'll be able to find the immortal root you need, or a spiritual fruit specifically for warriors entering the Void Realm. That would be great. At the gate of the Zhang family mansion, Duan Lingtian showed a bright smile on his face, said hello again, and then left. Only after seeing Duan Lingtian's back disappear before his eyes did Zhang Shoyong turn around and return home. And on the other side of the Zhang family mansion. You guys, find a good time and do it cleanly. I want him to disappear from the face of the earth. Don't leave any traces behind. The middle-aged woman spoke in a deep voice to the 3 middle-aged men in black in front of her. Yes, ma'am. The 3 middle-aged men in black nodded respectfully, with a frightening cold light flashing in their eyes. Go. As the middle-aged woman waved her hand, the 3 middle-aged men in black moved and disappeared into the night, like 3 ghosts in the dark. Mother. Soon, a young man appeared beside the woman, his eyes flashing coldly. Can the 3 of them do it? That Duan Lingtian is very strange. Last time, after I was hit by his demon spell, I didn't feel anything wrong from beginning to end. The 3 of them are even stronger than you and me. Killing Duan Lingtian shouldn't be difficult. The middle-aged woman was very confident in the 3 middle-aged men in black she sent out. Hearing this, the young man breathed a sigh of relief, the cold glint in his eyes undiminished. If Duan Lingtian were dead, my anger would subside. But it's a pity that Zhang Shoyong got the Lingshu fruit. With Zhang Shoyong's talent and understanding, after taking the Lingshu fruit, it shouldn't be difficult for him to break through to the Dongshu realm before the 10 Dynasties martial competition. Fortunately, he has no intention of becoming the clan leader, otherwise he would be a formidable opponent for you. The woman breathed a sigh of relief. Meanwhile, Duan Lingtian suddenly became alert after returning to the Blackstone Mansion, the residence purchased by the Blackstone Empire in the capital of the Han Dynasty. 3 people. At the first moment, his sharp mental power and anti-tracking instinct discovered 3 people hiding in the dark and watching him. However, when he entered the Blackstone Mansion, the 3 men did not follow him. Who could it be? Duan Lingtian returned to the Blackstone Mansion and his own courtyard, and he couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Logically speaking, I haven't offended anyone since arriving in the capital of the Han Dynasty. If there's any real grudge against me, It's only with the Zhang family's second young master, Zhang Shuyuan, and the clan leader's wife. Soon, Duan Lingtian guessed that it was Zhang Shuyuan and his mother, and became more and more certain. Never mind them. Anyway, those three guys probably don't have the guts to force their way into the Blackstone mansion. Duan Lingtian stopped thinking about it and sat cross-legged on the bed, closed his eyes, and continued practicing. 9 Dragons Fighting Art, Earth Dragon Transformation. In Duan Lingtian's hand, a fragment of artistic conception and a mid-grade yuan stone appeared out of thin air. The fragment of artistic conception was exactly the 5-fold artistic conception fragment of wind that he had obtained in the Sword Emperor's treasury. It could help him comprehend the artistic conception of wind until he comprehended the 5th-fold high-level artistic conception of wind. During this period, his comprehension of the artistic conception of wind will advance by leaps and bounds because of this artistic conception fragment. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, 3 months have passed. And now, there is only 1 month left until the Dynasty Martial Arts competition. Finally, a breakthrough. When Duan Lingtian woke up again, his face was filled with excitement and joy. Around his body, strands of energy seemed to be pulsating and finally completely merged into his body. During this period, the shadows of the 8 ancient horned dragons gradually dissipated in the void, entering the 6th level of the void realm. Duan Lingtian has broken through to the 6th level of the void realm. Go out for a walk. After practicing for 3 whole months, Duan Lingtian was almost suffocated. 3 months later, Duan Lingtian left the Blackstone mansion again. Are they still here? As soon as he walked out of the Blackstone mansion, Duan Lingtian spotted 3 people hiding in the dark. With his keen mental power, Duan Lingtian could conclude that these 3 people were the same ones who had followed him 3 months ago. It is suspected that they were sent by the Zhang family's patriarch's wife and her son. As for the purpose of these 3 people, Duan Lingtian could vaguely guess that they were here to take his life. Since you're so patient and have waited for 3 months, then I'll have some fun with you. Duan Lingtian stood outside the Blackstone mansion, a sinister smile playing on his face. Of course, the 3 people hiding in the dark were destined not to see Duan Lingtian's current smile. Then, Duan Lingtian pretended nothing had happened and walked away from the Blackstone mansion. And he could clearly see that after he left, the 3 people followed him like shadows, like 3 thorns attached to his bones. Not long after, Duan Lingtian happened to enter a remote and deserted alley. Aside from Duan Lingtian, there was no one else in sight in the alley. And just at this moment, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 3 piercing whistles of wind swept over almost instantly, rushing towards Duan Lingtian. In the blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian was surrounded by 3 middle-aged men in black, as if he was trapped by a net. Facing the 3 people who suddenly appeared, Duan Lingtian remained calm and composed. The scene before him was all within his expectations. If I'm not mistaken, you should be sent by the Zhang family's patriarch's wife and the second young master, right? Duan Lingtian glanced at the 3 middle-aged men in black and spoke slowly. The expressions of the 3 middle-aged men in black remained unchanged, as if they had not heard what Duan Lingtian said at all. However, Duan Lingtian, who was very observant, could still see a glimmer of surprise in the depths of the 3 people's eyes. It's them. Now. Duan Lingtian confirmed it completely. Kill. Suddenly, the middle-aged man in black standing to Duan Lingtian's left shouted. Almost the moment he finished speaking, he moved, like a hungry tiger, opening his bloody mouth and pouncing at Duan Lingtian. As for his other 2 companions, they also followed suit. Wow, wow, wow. The moment the 3 of them set off, 11 phantoms of ancient horned dragons appeared in the void above their heads. At this moment, the 3 of them had no spiritual weapons and no artistic conception. In other words, the true cultivation level of the 3 people is at the 8th level of the void realm. Duan Lingtian was not at all surprised by the cultivation levels displayed by the three. This was because, as early as 3 months ago, when he first discovered the three people, Duan Lingtian had already detected their cultivation levels with his mental power. 3. 8th level of entering the Void Realm. At that time, Duan Lingtian's cultivation was only at the 5th level of the Void Realm. Even if he used all his methods, it would be difficult to kill them, let alone using a quasi-emperor spiritual weapon. Even if Duan Lingtian used his spiritual power, which was 2 levels higher than his cultivation level, and reached the 7th level of the Void Realm, and used his soul's skill 1000 illusions, he would still be unable to defeat them. So, at that time, Duan Lingtian pretended not to notice them. Anyway, he has the protection of Prince Yong in the Blackstone Palace, so he doesn't have to worry about these three people breaking in. And now, his cultivation has broken through to this 6th level of the Void Realm, and his mental strength has also broken through to the 8th level of the Void Realm. None of the three warriors at the 8th level of the Void Realm are inscription masters. Duan Lingtian had already confirmed this 3 months ago. If there is an engraving master among the three. 3 months ago, when Duan Lingtian used his mental power to investigate them, they would definitely have discovered it. At that time, the three of them were completely unaware of Duan Lingtian's mental power, which shows that none of them was an inscription master. Facing the three aggressive 8th level Void Realm warriors, Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed, and a faint light began to flicker in them. The next moment, 1000 illusions. Duan Lingtian's spiritual power instantly merged into this soul brand deep within his soul, unleashing his unique soul skills. An elusive, illusionary space was constructed by Duan Lingtian, sweeping out and covering the area within a radius of 10 meters where he was. At the same time, the three of them took out their spiritual weapons and used the artistic realm of the 8th level warriors in the Void Realm to enter the illusion space one after another. In Duan Lingtian's vision, the three men changed their targets instantly after approaching him and started fighting each other. At this time, Duan Lingtian walked slowly to the side of a secluded alley and watched the three people fighting leisurely. The fight between the three was extremely brutal, and in a short while one of them was seriously injured by the other two. Oh! A scream was heard, and it was the seriously injured person who was killed by the other two. Duan Lingtian watched coldly as a middle-aged man in black fell in a pool of blood. Although, he had never met the three people in front of him before. But since the other party wanted to kill him, he naturally wouldn't be polite. You will have to pay for what you have done. At the same time, the remaining two continued to fight each other. Half an hour later, another person was killed. The last person was seriously injured and dying, supporting himself on the ground with his spiritual sword. It was obvious that he would not live long. Pa 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 pa. Seeing that this person was no longer a threat, Duan Lingtian clapped his hands while removing the illusion space he had created with his soul skill, 1000 illusions. At the same time, the seriously injured and dying middle-aged man in black also found himself leaving that inexplicable place and returning to the remote alley. At just one glance, he saw his two companions lying in a pool of blood, and his face couldn't help but change drastically. Soon, he discovered something extremely terrifying. Those were the wounds of his two companions, and he was very familiar with them. Then, his gaze fell on the spiritual knife in his hand. Blood was still dripping from it. It's me? The middle-aged man in black had a pale face, his pupils shrank, and his body trembled. He was unwilling to believe that all this was true. Yes, it's you. At the same time, a calm voice reached the ears of the middle-aged man in black at the right time, causing his face to change drastically. You? How could you know? Impossible. The middle-aged man in black turned around and saw Duan Lingtian standing at the side of the alley as if nothing had happened. He couldn't help but shake his head in fear. In his opinion, everything in front of me can't be real. He had just killed the other party twice. But now, the other party is alive and well, while his two companions are dead. Nothing is impossible. Duan Lingtian glanced at the middle-aged man in black, seemingly sensing his disbelief, and said slowly, "In this world, there are many things you cannot understand, just like what happened just now. Perhaps you have no idea how you suddenly ended up in this place, or why I appeared again after killing me once. At the same time, you wouldn't have guessed that the two people you killed were both your companions." Every word Duan Lingtian spoke seemed to turn into a sharp blade, piercing the chest of the middle-aged man in black. The middle-aged man in black began to tremble more violently. Now, the young man in purple with a faint smile in front of him was no different from a devil in the eyes of the middle-aged man in black. "Devil? You are a devil. You are a devil." "The devil? Maybe." A faint, sinister smile appeared on the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth. "Devil, I'll kill you." The middle-aged man in black struggled to rush towards Duan Lingtian and kill him. Unfortunately, as soon as he took a step, his body, which was no longer supported by the spiritual sword, could no longer hold its ground and fell to the ground with a loud bang. His injuries were too severe. If there is an afterlife, remember not to be someone else's lackey. Only by becoming a superior person can you control your own destiny. As Duan Lingtian spoke calmly, the energy in his hand condensed into a 3-foot-long green blade, and with a single blow, he ended the life of the last middle-aged man in black. "Since you want to play, I will play with you." After the 3-foot-long green sword formed by the Yuanli in Duan Lingtian's hand dissipated, he suddenly turned his head and looked in the direction of the Zhang family mansion, with a layer of frost covering his face. Then, Duan Lingtian raised his hand, ripped off the belt of a middle-aged man in black, and tied the 3 corpses together. The next moment, Duan Lingtian took off into the air, dragging 3 corpses with him. Whoosh! Although he was carrying 3 corpses, Duan Lingtian's movements were still extremely swift, as if he had turned into a gust of wind, and soon he arrived outside the gate of the Zhang family mansion. Young Master Lingtian. As soon as Duan Lingtian landed outside the gate of the Zhang family mansion, several Zhang family guards at the gate respectfully saluted him. Duan Lingtian smiled and nodded at several Zhang family guards, making them feel as if they were in spring breeze. Young Master Lingtian is truly kind. As expected of the young master's friend, he's neither arrogant nor impatient. Several Zhang family retainers whispered among themselves, praising Duan Lingtian highly. "Those are 3 bodies." Soon, a sharp-eyed guard of the Zhang family saw that Duan Lingtian raised his hand and dragged out 3 corpses stacked on top of each other and dumped them at the gate of the Zhang family mansion. What is Master Lingtian going to do? For a moment, the faces of several Zhang family generals changed slightly, and their scalps felt tingling. Isn't the young man in purple in front of them their young master's friend? Bringing a corpse to visit doesn't seem like something a friend would do, right? Do you know these 3 people? Duan Lingtian looked at the Zhang family's guards and asked with a smile. However, at this moment, his smile looked like that of a devil in the eyes of several Zhang family members. However, several Zhang family guards couldn't help but turn their attention to the 3 corpses. After a moment, someone's expression changed. "Aren't they the Madam's guards?" "That's them. I still remember that when Madam first got married, the 3 of them came as dowry from Madam's family." Several Zhang family guards recognized the 3 dead people at a glance. They were all at the 8th level of the Void Realm, but no one knows who killed them. Between Madam, the second young master, and young Master Lingtian, it seems, could it be? Soon, several Zhang family guards looked towards Duan Lingtian with terrified expressions. Although they did not believe that Duan Lingtian had the ability to kill 3 8th-level Void Realm warriors. But who knows if it was the powerful person behind Duan Lingtian who killed these 3 people? Would you be willing to lend a hand and help me carry them to the main hall of your Zhang family? Duan Lingtian looked at the Zhang family's guards and spoke slowly. Copy the URL Upon hearing this, the faces of several Zhang family retainers changed, and they looked at each other. No one dared to agree. Master Ling Tian, please don't embarrass us. Soon, a Zhang family guard said with a wry smile, they are Madam's people. You may not be afraid of Madam, but we are different. Yes. The other Zhang family generals nodded hurriedly. Duan Ling Tian raised his brows, but he wasn't surprised. He continued, then you can go inform your eldest young master for me and ask him to go to the main hall. That shouldn't be a problem, right? That's no problem. Several Zhang family retainers said hurriedly. Immediately afterwards, Duan Ling Tian took the lead, dragging 3 corpses into the Zhang family mansion, leaving a long trail of blood along the way, and headed straight for the Zhang family hall. Behind Duan Ling Tian, a Zhang family guard hurriedly headed to the other side. The direction he was heading was the compound where Zhang Shouyong, the eldest son of the Zhang family, lived. Master Ling Tian. When Duan Ling Tian arrived outside the Zhang family's main hall, several servants standing guard recognized him. Soon, the expressions of several servants changed, simply because they saw the 3 corpses that Duan Ling Tian dragged over. Boom. Duan Ling Tian raised his hand and threw the 3 corpses directly at the gate of the Zhang family hall. He then stood quietly aside and did not go in. Please go and inform your clan leader, his wife, the second young master, and all the elders, and invite them over. Duan Ling Tian looked at the servants standing by with slightly changed expressions and spoke slowly. Upon hearing this, several servants nodded hurriedly and fled. Seeing the servants' exaggerated actions, Duan Ling Tian touched his nose embarrassedly. Am I that scary? Not long after, a figure flew over. Whoosh. The figure moved incredibly fast and stood beside Duan Ling Tian in the blink of an eye. Brother Ling Tian, what's going on? The first person to arrive was Zhang Shouyong. Obviously, the Zhang family retainer who went to find Zhang Shouyong did not have time to say too much to Zhang Shouyong, so Zhang Shouyong did not know what exactly had happened. Brother Zhang. Duan Ling Tian smiled at Zhang Shouyong and pointed at 3 corpses not far away. Zhang Shouyong only then noticed the 3 bodies and the bloodstains along the way and couldn't help but frown. Who are they? Soon, Zhang Shouyong's eyes fell on the 3 corpses. With just one glance, he could clearly see the faces of the 3 corpses. Snort. Zhang Shouyong suddenly snorted coldly, his voice extremely cold, obviously recognizing the 3 bodies. He said in a deep voice, "That bitch." Now, Zhang Shouyong naturally understood what had happened. It must have been his second mother who sent people to attack Duan Ling Tian, but they were killed by the strong men of the Blackstone Empire. Now, Duan Ling Tian brought 3 corpses to the door to demand an explanation. Brother Ling Tian, you can rest assured. I will definitely give you an explanation for this matter. Zhang Shouyong promised word for word. Duan Ling Tian nodded. He believed in Zhang Shouyong. If he didn't believe Zhang Shouyong, he wouldn't have just dragged 3 corpses to the Zhang family. What's going on? Soon, the Zhang family patriarch also arrived. He looked at the bloodstains along the way, and his face was extremely grim. Dad, look at them. Zhang Shouyong's face was as gloomy as water, and he pointed at the 3 corpses. The Zhang family head took one look, and his expression changed instantly. How could it be them? Aren't they the guards around your second mother? How could they die here? They didn't die here. If I'm not mistaken, they were probably sent by Aaron Yang to kill the Ling Tian brothers, but they were killed by the Blackstone Empire's powerful men behind the Ling Tian brothers. Zhang Shouyong said in a deep voice. Upon hearing this, the Zhang family head's expression changed drastically. He immediately looked at Duan Ling Tian, as if wanting to confirm, Brother Ling Tian, is this really true? Clan leader Zhang. The 3 of them really wanted to kill me. Unfortunately, they didn't succeed. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Upon hearing this, the Zhang family leader frowned and looked gloomy. He then looked at Zhang Shouyong and said, Go find your second mother. Zhang Shouyong hadn't even left yet. Duan Ling Tian had already spoken. Don't worry, Patriarch Zhang. I've already sent for your wife and the second young master. Zhang Shouyong stopped walking after hearing this. The Zhang family head's brows furrowed even deeper. Originally, he was still thinking. After he sent Zhang Shouyong away, he would have a good discussion with Duan Lingtian to see if this matter could be resolved. After all, this matter concerns his second wife. But now, he could only use his Yuanli to condense his voice to persuade Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian, our Zhang family is at fault in this matter. This is to show our sincerity. As long as it's within our capabilities, if you ask for anything, we will go through fire and water for you. A sound of condensed Yuanli came to Duan Lingtian's ears. He could tell that this was the voice of the Zhang family's patriarch's condensed energy. Clan leader Zhang. Duan Lingtian glanced at the Zhang family head and replied with a calm voice. Brother Zhang and I are friends, and you are his father. Logically, I should call you uncle. However, regarding today's matter, I still hope that you can handle it impartially and give me justice. Upon hearing this, the Zhang family head couldn't help but smile bitterly. He knew that Duan Lingtian was trying to prove himself. After a while, figures came one after another. After a while, more than a dozen elders of the Zhang family arrived. Seeing these elders of the Zhang family, the head of the Zhang family was dumbfounded. Uncle, I asked them to invite the elders over. Duan Lingtian gave the Zhang family head a deep look, causing the latter's mouth to twitch and a hint of fear in his eyes. The Zhang family head then realized it. This young man in purple not only has extraordinary talent in martial arts, but his mind is also so meticulous that it makes people feel a little scalp tingling. Then he glanced at Zhang Shouyong. He knew that the reason Duan Lingtian dared to make such a plan was undoubtedly because he had his son as a bargaining chip. It can be said that if his eldest son had not intervened in today's incident, Duan Lingtian would definitely not have been able to cause any trouble. What a scheming person. As the head of a clan, the Zhang family has been through a lot in his life. What kind of people has he not seen? What kind of storms has he not encountered? But now, in front of this young man in purple, he felt a trace of fear rising from the bottom of his heart. How old is this little guy? At such a young age, he already has such terrifying intentions. When he truly grows up, he might become a devil in the world. He had no doubt about this. Chief, what happened? More than a dozen elders of the Zhang family soon discovered the three bodies tied together. They couldn't help but frown and asked the head of the Zhang family. Before the Zhang family head could speak, another Zhang family elder couldn't help but exclaim, Aren't those three the guards around the lady? He's really the lady's bodyguard. The guards around Madame are from her family, but since they came with her as a dowry into the Zhang family, they are members of the Zhang family. Who is so bold? They even dare to kill someone from our Zhang family. For a moment, a group of Zhang family elders were furious. At this time, the wife of the Zhang family's patriarch and the second young master also arrived late. When the two men saw the bodies of the three middle-aged men in black lying on the ground, their faces changed. Madam, if I'm not mistaken, they should be your guards, right? Soon, an elder from the Zhang family asked the patriarch's wife. The clan leader's wife looked grim, but still nodded. She couldn't deny this. Madam, rest assured, no matter who killed the guards around you, our Zhang family will never let it go. Some elders of the Zhang family gave assurances to the clan leader's wife. Make the latter feel guilty. Dear elders, since you don't know the ins and outs of this matter, it's best not to rush to show your loyalty. At this moment, Zhang Shouyong spoke, his voice full of sarcasm. Master, what do you mean? Suddenly, the expressions of those elders changed. Brother Lingtian, you go ahead and speak. Zhang Shouyong looked at Duan Lingtian and nodded. Just speak frankly. There's no need to worry. Duan Lingtian nodded, then slowly said, These three people were killed by the powerful men of my Blackstone Empire. The reason is that the three of them have been lurking outside our mansion for a full 3 months. Today, when I left the mansion, they directly attacked me. Fortunately, I have strong people protecting me, Otherwise, I would have died. Duan Lingtian finished his speech, taking a deep look at the clan leader's wife and the second young master, who both had grim expressions on their faces. I haven't offended anyone since arriving in the capital of the Han Dynasty. The only people I have had conflicts with are the clan leader's wife and the second young master. So, I brought the 3 bodies to the Zhang family residence. Facts have proven that I was right. These 3 people were the people around the clan leader's wife. Duan Lingtian finished speaking in one breath. The group of Zhang family elders now looked at each other in silence. Ma'am, is what he said true? Soon, an elder of the Zhang family with white hair and eyebrows, over 100 years old, asked the wife of the clan leader in a deep voice. The clan leader's wife chose to remain silent, obviously agreeing. Elders, please handle today's matter impartially. Brother Ling Tian is my friend, and I hope you can give him justice. Otherwise, I, Zhang Shouyong, will leave the Zhang family from now on. Zhang Shouyong said in a resolute tone. Get away from the Zhang family. When Zhang Shouyong said this, everyone present, including Duan Lingtian, could not help but be stunned. Brother Zhang. Duan Lingtian looked at Zhang Shouyong, and a deep warmth rose in his heart. However, the clan leader's wife and the second young master's expressions changed drastically. They didn't take what was happening before them seriously. After all, Duan Lingtian is just an outsider, no matter how you look at it. In their eyes, this is the Zhang family. Not to mention that the patriarch of the Zhang family is their husband and father. Even the elders of the Zhang family would not be biased towards an outsider like Duan Lingtian. But now, Zhang Shouyong intervened and threatened everyone in the Zhang family with his words, making them realize the crisis. The elders of the Zhang family came to their senses, and their faces changed drastically. Only the patriarch of the Zhang family had a helpless look and a wry smile on his face, as if he had already realized that Zhang Shouyong would do this. Soon, a group of Zhang family elders looked at each other in confusion. The atmosphere at the scene became quiet for a moment. Duan Lingtian knew that right now, this group of Zhang family elders were probably communicating with each other through Yuanli. Soon, there will be results. With Big Brother Zhang's talent and strength, advancing in the dynasty martial competition will be a piece of cake. There's even a 100% chance that Big Brother Zhang will be able to break through to the Void Realm before the 10 Dynasties martial competition begins. A young talent at the Void Realm is capable of making a name for himself in the 10 Dynasties martial competition and overcoming all odds. If such a young talent could achieve great honor in the 10 Dynasties martial competition, his faction, the Zhang family, would surely reap numerous benefits. So, at this time, the Zhang family can't let Brother Zhang leave. Duan Lingtian was very sure of this. And the facts prove that Duan Lingtian was absolutely right. The Zhang family elders quickly reached a consensus. Follow Zhang Shouyong's wishes and punish the culprit. Young master. Among the group of Zhang family elders present, the most dignified elder, the one with white hair and white eyebrows, slowly said, although this matter concerns Madam and the second young master, as the saying goes, the emperor is guilty of the same crime as the common people. We naturally cannot show favoritism. However, considering that this young man is unharmed and the 3 who attacked him are dead, even according to our Zhang family rules, Madam and the second young master do not deserve the death penalty. It's not a crime punishable by death, but it should be enough to ruin my entire cultivation, right? Zhang Shouyong continued. Waste your cultivation. As soon as Zhang Shouyong finished speaking, the atmosphere at the scene became solemn. In the Yunshao continent where martial arts are prevalent and the strong are respected, for most warriors, cultivation is far more important than their own lives. Without cultivation, life would be worse than death. The Zhang family's patriarch's wife and the second young master's faces changed drastically after hearing Zhang Shouyong's words. Waste your cultivation? Mom, I don't want my cultivation to be wasted. The second young master was terrified and even spoke with tears in his voice. You honor, don't worry. No one can destroy your cultivation. The clan leader's wife took a deep breath, stepped out, looked at Zhang Shouyong, and said in a deep voice, "The guards around me cannot be driven by anyone without my order. Therefore, this matter has nothing to do with you, honor." Zhang Shouyong said calmly, "It has nothing to do with him, so it has nothing to do with him. But your entire cultivation will be wasted. Give me, Brother Ling Tian, an explanation." Snort. The clan leader's wife snorted softly, looking as if she was ready to be slaughtered. But her eyes were still filled with murderous intent, focused on Duan Lingtian, who was not far away. Sensing the clan leader's wife's murderous intent, Duan Lingtian's face darkened. This evil woman, is she still so stubborn even at this point? Damn it. Let's do it. Seeing a group of elders looking over, the Zhang family patriarch sighed, waved his hand, and said, "Law enforcement elder." The elder with white hair and eyebrows looked at an old man in green clothes and spoke slowly. The old man in green is the law enforcement elder of the Zhang family. "Ma'am, I'm sorry." The law enforcement elder took a deep breath and slowly walked towards the clan leader's wife. Duan Lingtian watched all this with cold eyes. Seeing the law enforcement elder approach the clan leader's wife, he slowly raised his hand. "Don't touch my mother." A loud shout suddenly rang out. It was Zhang Shouyuan who couldn't hold back any longer. He moved and stood in front of the clan leader's wife, stopping the law enforcement elder. Second young master. When the law enforcement elder saw Zhang Shouyuan intervene, he couldn't help but smile bitterly and slowly put down his hand. "Get out of here. Otherwise, I'll destroy you too." Zhang Shouyong narrowed his eyes. A cold light flashed across his face, and he shouted in a deep voice. When Zhang Shouyuan heard Zhang Shouyong's stern shout, his face changed and his body began to tremble. You, Zhang Shouyong. I am your biological brother." "Brother?" Zhang Shouyong sneered. "Now, you admit that you are my biological brother? In the past, when you made things difficult for me, I could tolerate it and not bother with you. But today, you and your son are bullying my friend, and I will definitely not stand idly by." Zhang Shouyong's words resonated loudly. Zhang Shouyuan was so frightened that his face turned pale and his body kept shaking, and it seemed like he couldn't stop. "You honor, get out of the way." The clan leader's wife said in a deep voice. "Father." Zhang Shouyuan looked unwillingly at his father, the patriarch of the Zhang family. It's a pity that the head of the Zhang family is now in a difficult situation. He knew his eldest son's character very well. Once words are spoken, they are like water spilled on the ground, and it is difficult to take them back. Today, if he cannot give his eldest son an explanation, he has no doubt that his eldest son will leave the Zhang family. "You honor, listen to your mother." The head of the Zhang family shook his head and said to Zhang Shouyuan, "Second young master." The law enforcement elder looked at Zhang Shouyuan, sighed, and raised his hand again. "Zhang Shouyong." However, Zhang Shouyuan still did not retreat. Instead, he looked at Zhang Shouyong and said in a deep voice, "I know you want to stand up for your friend today, so I will give you something in exchange. As long as you let my mother go, I will give it to you." Zhang Shouyuan's words made most people present stunned. Can what happened today be reversed by just one thing? I'm not interested. Sure enough, Zhang Shouyong glanced at Zhang Shouyuan with disdain and said lightly, "Are you sure you're not interested in it?" Zhang Shouyuan took a deep breath and slowly raised his hand. "If I remember correctly, you have been looking for this thing for several months." Almost at the moment Zhang Shouyuan finished speaking, something appeared in his hand. This is a strange thing that looks like a medicinal herb. The most important thing is that this medicinal herb looks just like an old tree root, extremely ordinary, and has no apparent value. A group of Zhang family elders thought that Zhang Shouyuan would take out some treasure, but they didn't expect it to be such an inconspicuous thing. They couldn't help shaking their heads. He felt that Zhang Shouyuan could not save his mother. However, Zhang Shouyong's originally calm expression was completely stunned when he saw the medicinal herbs in Zhang Shouyuan's hand. Why does this thing look so familiar? Soon, Zhang Shouyong reacted and looked at Duan Lingtian beside him. And now Duan Lingtian stood there, dumbfounded, staring blankly at what Zhang Xiyin was holding. No, immortal root. Duan Lingtian's emotions were indescribable and extremely exciting. He never expected it. What he had been dreaming about day and night would appear here, in Zhang Shuyuan's hands. Brother Lingtian. At this moment, Duan Lingtian heard an extremely clear voice condensed with Yuanli. It was Zhang Shouyong's voice. Do you want my second mother to continue to pay the price for her actions, or do you want this herb? Now, Zhang Shouyong remembered. Isn't the thing in Zhang Shouyuan's hand the immortal root that Duan Lingtian asked him to help find earlier? I want this herb. Duan Lingtian spoke bluntly without any hesitation. What a joke. Although, he hated the wife of the Zhang family's patriarch. But in front of the immortal root, the hatred between him and the wife of the Zhang family's patriarch was nothing. The root of immortality is one of the two auxiliary ingredients of the nirvana pill. Duan Lingtian had already obtained another auxiliary medicinal ingredient, phoenix feather grass. Even among the ingredients needed for the nirvana pill, the most important ingredient, the red Luan blood, Duan Lingtian had already obtained it. As for the other medicinal herbs, they were all very common and Duan Lingtian had already prepared them. Duan Lingtian now can be said to have everything ready. Only the east wind is missing. As long as he gets the immortal root, he can directly refine the nirvana pill. Nirvana pill, a kind of extremely powerful elixir, can make a person's cultivation level advance by leaps and bounds. The improvement is so great that it is shocking. I have already broken through to the 6th level of the Void Realm. If I could take the Nirvana pill, I might be able to break through to the 9th level of the Void Realm in a short period of time. Duan Lingtian had no doubt about this. The medicinal effects of Nirvana pill are recorded in detail in the memories of Emperor Samsara. You know, a Nirvana pill completely consumes its medicinal power and even allowed the Samsara Martial Emperor, who had already achieved the Martial Emperor realm that year, to break through several levels in one fell swoop. When one reaches the Martial Emperor realm, the gap between each level is undoubtedly like a chasm. The difference in elemental power of only one level is probably far greater than the difference between Duan Lingtian's current elemental power and the Martial Emperor realm first-level expert's elemental power. Understood. After receiving Duan Lingtian's reply, Zhang Shouyong nodded, then looked at Zhang Shouyuan and said calmly, "Deal. Make a deal." Zhang Shouyong's words made Zhang Shouyuan breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, he was not sure at all. Although he knew that Zhang Shouyong had started looking for the herbs in his hands several months ago, he was not sure how much Zhang Shouyong wanted them. Now, hearing Zhang Shouyong's promise, he felt relieved. He was not worried that Zhang Shouyong would regret it. After all, there is now a group of people witnessing the deal between him and Zhang Shouyong, so he is not afraid that Zhang Shouyong will cheat. Give. When Zhang Shouyuan raised his hand, the immortal root in his hand flew out and headed straight for Zhang Shouyong. He didn't feel the slightest bit of reluctance, because so far, he couldn't see any difference in the immortal root. This was just an unrecognizable medicinal herb that he had obtained by chance and had been thrown into the corner of the ring space by him. It was not until the last time Zhang Shouyong was looking for this medicinal herb that he found it. Of course, he never thought of giving it to Zhang Shouyong. Although Zhang Shouyong was his big brother in name, he never really regarded him as his big brother in his heart. He even thought about taking out the medicinal herbs in front of Zhang Shouyong in the future, but not giving them to Zhang Shouyong, so as to anger Zhang Shouyong to death. But he never expected that something like this would happen today. However, he still felt that it was a sure win to exchange a medicinal herb that he couldn't recognize for his mother's cultivation. Make a deal? And now, all the elders of the Zhang family were completely stunned and couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. Originally, when they saw Zhang Shouyuan taking out such an insignificant medicinal herb, They thought he was humiliating himself. They never expected it. Zhang Shouyong would actually give up on making things difficult for the clan leader's wife just for this medicinal herb. Incredible. What kind of medicinal herbs are they? A group of Zhang family elders were very interested in the medicinal herbs that Zhang Shouyong now had in his hands. The Zhang family patriarch felt the same way as the other elders. He had never imagined that his second son could turn the tide with a humble medicinal herb. However, as of now, the whole thing seems to have ended well. His second wife finally didn't have to waste her cultivation. This concludes today's matter. Zhang Shouyong said this calmly, then called out to Duan Lingtian and returned to the compound where he lived. Mother! Zhang Shouyuan took a deep breath and reached out to support the woman who was covered in cold sweat. The woman stared at the receding figures of Zhang Shouyong and Duan Lingtian, her eyes filled with murderous intent. After Duan Lingtian and Zhang Shouyuan returned to the compound, walked into a room together. Then, Zhang Shouyong handed the immortal root to Duan Lingtian. Brother Lingtian, is this herb important to you? At the beginning, Duan Lingtian asked him to help find the immortal root. He had not yet realized how important the immortal root was to Duan Lingtian. But what happened today made him realize the importance of the immortality root to Duan Lingtian. Yes, it's very important. Duan Lingtian tightly grasped the root of immortality, trying hard to suppress his inner emotions, and stored it in his storage ring as if it were a treasure. Anyway, you're quite lucky. I never thought my second brother would have this root of immortality. Zhang Shouyong sighed. If you hadn't come here today to accuse him, putting his mother in danger, he might not have handed over the immortal root. Zhang Shouyong is aware of the conflict between himself and Zhang Shouyuan. Even if Zhang Shouyuan had the immortal root, he would not give it to him if he knew that he was looking for it. At most, I would deliberately take out the root of immortality to anger him. I didn't expect that either. Duan Lingtian nodded. Even he found today's events unbelievable. If he had not come to the Zhang family mansion to look for Zhang Shouyong, and had not met Zhang Shouyong's second brother Zhang Shouyuan, he would not have been teased by the other party using the soul skill Thousand Illusions. He would not offend the wife of the Zhang family's patriarch, causing her to hate him to the core and send someone to kill him. All of this seems to be God's will. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Duan Lingtian then regained consciousness, looked at Zhang Shouyong, and said sincerely, Brother Zhang, no matter what, if it weren't for you today, I wouldn't have been able to force your mother to that point. If I hadn't been able to force her to that point, your second brother wouldn't have offered the immortal root in exchange. In Duan Lingtian's opinion, the reason why he was able to obtain the root of immortality was ultimately because of Zhang Shouyong. Brother Lingtian, you're being too polite. Don't forget, you gave me a third-rank spiritual weapon. No matter how precious the immortal root is, can it be more precious than a third-rank spiritual weapon? Zhang Shouyong shook his head. Duan Lingtian was stunned when he heard Zhang Shouyong's words. He didn't expect Zhang Shouyong to compare the third-rank spiritual weapon with the immortal root. You know, a third-grade spiritual weapon is not a rare thing for him. As long as he has the materials, he can refine it at any time. But the immortal root is different. Having obtained the immortal root, it meant that he could officially begin refining the Nirvana pill. Thinking of the miraculous medicinal power of the Nirvana pill, his mood became excited again. Brother Zhang, now that everything has been resolved, it's time for me to go back. Duan Lingtian greeted Zhang Shouyong. Now, he is eager to return home and can't wait to go back to refine the Nirvana pill, a miraculous elixir. I send you. This time, Zhang Shouyong not only personally escorted Duan Lingtian out of the Zhang family residence, but also escorted him all the way back to the Blackstone mansion. See you in a month. Duan Lingtian walked into the Blackstone mansion and said to Zhang Shouyong with a smile, See you in a month. Zhang Shouyong nodded. He didn't leave until he saw Duan Lingtian safely enter the Blackstone mansion. The reason he personally sent Duan Lingtian back was because he was worried that his second mother would send someone to attack Duan Lingtian again. He knew his second mother's character very well, and he would punish her for any flaws without leaving any room for leniency. Snort. As Duan Lingtian entered the Blackstone mansion, he heard a cold snort coming from the courtyard in front. Upon closer inspection, he saw that it was young Master Dao, Long Yun, who was observing him coldly. Long Yun. Duan Lingtian raised his eyebrows, and his mental power extended out, covering the other person. Soon, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Sky. What did he find? Isn't this too outrageous? Duan Lingtian smiled bitterly to himself. Just now, his mental power enveloped Long Yun's body, and he immediately detected Long Yun's current cultivation level. However, Long Yun's cultivation level was beyond Duan Lingtian's expectations. Enter the 7th level of the Void Realm. Long Yun's cultivation level is actually better than his current level. Duan Lingtian was speechless. It seems that this guy's cultivation level might have been directly increased by a pile of spiritual fruits. It seems that his master has a lot of spiritual fruits in stock. Duan Lingtian thought secretly. It was undeniable that a hint of jealousy rose in Duan Lingtian's heart. He thought his fate was pretty good. But even so, his cultivation is still inferior to Long Yun. Shaking his head, Duan Lingtian ignored Long Yun and headed towards his own courtyard. As long as I take the Nirvana pill, I will be able to surpass the current Long Yun in one fell swoop. In the next year, as long as I can keep up with my understanding of the Wind Realm, it is not impossible for me to break through to the Void Realm before the 10 Dynasties martial competition. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian felt much more relieved. He also has the trump card of Nirvana pill. Duan Lingtian, you're out again? As the courtyard drew closer, Duan Lingtian heard a familiar voice. Duan Lingtian turned around and saw Su Li walking out of the small courtyard nearby. His face was flushed. Su Li. Duan Lingtian smiled at Su Li and then extended his mental power, covering Su Li's body, exploring his current cultivation level. However, the result was another blow to Duan Lingtian. Enter the 8th level of the virtual realm. Duan Lingtian couldn't help but twitch his lips. Do you dare to go any further? Su Li and Long Yun's master is really wealthy. He can actually give them so many different spiritual fruits to improve their cultivation. Duan Lingtian developed a great interest in Su Li and Long Yun's master. It seems that Su Li will definitely be able to advance in the Dynasty martial competition. As for Long Yun, he also has a good chance. Duan Lingtian thought secretly. Duan Lingtian, I forgot to ask you last time. Where is that little witch following you? Su Li looked around, and after confirming that there was no trace of the little witch, he couldn't help but ask. She's gone for now. Duan Lingtian said. He naturally knew who the little witch Su Li was talking about. It was undoubtedly Han Xuanai. In the eyes of a group of people including Su Li, Xuanai was regarded as a little witch. It has to be said that Duan Lingtian also agreed with the name Xuanai in his heart. The little witch really suits Xuanai. Xiao Jin, Xiao Hei, Xiao Bai. I hope you are all safe and sound. Otherwise, I will never let that Qing Nu go. Thinking about it later, Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed coldly, and he secretly became ruthless. Su Li, I'll go in first. Duan Lingtian came back to his senses, said hello to Lydia Su, and then returned to his room. It wasn't until Duan Lingtian's back disappeared from Su Li's sight that Su Li came back to his senses, a smile on his face. He murmured to himself, Duan Lingtian, this time, I can finally surpass you, right? As Su Li talked to himself, he was obviously full of confidence in his current strength. Entering the 8th level of the virtual realm. It was enough to make Lydia Su full of confidence. Duan Lingtian naturally didn't know what Su Li was talking to himself after he left. Otherwise, he would have just smiled indifferently. You know, today, he can refine the Nirvana pill. Once he takes the Nirvana pill, he will be transformed like the mythical phoenix, undergoing a Nirvana rebirth. By then, his cultivation will undergo earth-shaking changes. After returning to his room, Duan Lingtian did nothing else but directly took out the third-grade spiritual weapon-level medicine cauldron that he had refined last time. After taking out the medicine cauldron, he took out the two auxiliary ingredients of Nirvana pill, phoenix feathergrass, and immortal root. Then he took out a bunch of medicinal herbs. The method of refining Nirvana pill. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. Deep in his mind, the records of the method of refining the Nirvana pill in the memory of the Reincarnation Emperor were integrated into his memory one by one and became a part of his memory. Only after confirming that he had fully mastered it did Duan Lingtian come back to his senses. Now, let's start refining the Nirvana pill. Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and the purple Dan fire in his hand flickered, with traces of copper edges around it. It was the purple copper Dan fire. The purple copper elixir fire, also known as the third-grade elixir fire, is possessed by third-grade alchemists.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.